All right, here we go with another how-to episode. Today we have a 2011 Chevy Traverse in the shop. There it is down there. And we are going to do the front pads and the rotors, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's get into it. There's our wheel. We already took it off using a 7/8 socket and a battery impact. We had these lugs on here, again, to 7/8 to remove the wheel. And to remove just the caliper part, you're going to have a bolt here at the top, and if you come down, you're going to have another bolt here. I already loosened for sake of speeding up the video, and that is going to be a 1/2-inch socket to take those two bolts off. So let's get them out of there. They're already loosened up. And then on the back, you're going to need a 21mm. You're going to have a bigger bolt back here, which is going to be right behind the bolt you just took out, the 1/2-inch. Go back, and you're going to have a 7/8 right there. And if you go down to the bottom, same thing. The 1/2-inch bolt was here. Just go back about an inch, and you're going to see another 7/8 bolt, and that's going to need to come out as well. And with those loose, we can go ahead and remove them. Set them aside. Now, your whole assembly will be loose. You want to have something next to it because you do not want to overextend this brake line and break the brake line. So we're going to remove this whole caliper and we're going to set it up there. Give it a little bit of a wiggle and it should pull right up just like that. And then we're going to set it right on our bucket here without twisting this brake line or anything. Now that that's up there, we're going to get back to that, and I'll show you how to do the pads and stuff, but we also are doing the rotors on this. So now is where you want to examine the rotors. These rotors actually don't look too bad. They do have a little wear on them at the top and the bottom. So if we're going to put fresh pads on here and we're already under here, just replace the rotor. On this particular model, you're going to see this Torx bit right here, this Torx head. That's going to have to come out in order for this rotor to slide off. So we're going to go ahead and get that bit and take that out. And that is going to be a T30 that we have on there to take that out. And you can see the rotor is now loose. That's what your little bolt looks like. And now we can take the rotor off. When you're putting the new rotor on, remember you got that little, where that screw you just took out. Remember, you got to line that up with the hole in the hub here. All right, so we want to line that up on the rotor to the hub. We just slide that right on, and we can go ahead and put our screw back in there. We got our bolt back in. Rotor is nice and tight. Now we're going to focus on the caliper. And if you have all your bolts out, you should be able to just lift up on this cage here that holds the pads, and you should be able to separate that just like that. Now, your pads here, you can see they rest in these little grooves right here. And there's a little metal clip hanging them on each side. You can just pull up like that. There you go. They'll just pop out of there. And you can see the grooves where it'll actually slide back in. We'll get to that later on. So you can examine your pads now. You can see these are pretty worn down. Ain't too much left to them. But we're going to go up here and we're going to compress these pistons first and make sure our caliper is okay. So we're going to get some C-clamps. And we're going to take the old pad and just place it there. And we're going to actually clamp here. And we're going to compress these pistons in. But before we do that, we're going to loosen the master cylinder cap. On the driver's side up here, you're going to see your cap. Now, you don't have to take it all the way off. You just want to loosen it. So when you compress that, it's not trying to push the fluid out of the little breather hole in the cap. If anything spills out, you probably could put a rag down in here. But just to loosen it just like that will be just fine. All right, you can see I have two C-clamps on there. One is going to be pushing in each piston. So I want to do this evenly. I'm going to do a couple cranks on this, and then I'm going to do a couple cranks on this so that we can push those pistons in kind of even. There is a tool for this that does them both at once. Mine's actually broken, so we are doing it this way. And I would assume most people watching the video are homeowners and probably are going to do the same thing. So this is the way we're going to do it. So basically, we're just going to crank in a little bit on this one, and then we're going to crank in a little bit on this one. And it will start pushing those pistons in. Just go back and forth, a little on this one and then a little on your next one. And you'll see these start retracting in. All right, now we can go ahead and remove our clamps. They should come off of here fairly easy. Come on. It's hard to do it one hand. All right, take our pad out. And you can see now that we are flush here. And the reason you do that is because your new pads are going to be, they're going to be much thicker than these pads. And this, once you put your new pads on, you're going to have very little gap in here to slide over the rotor. Okay, so you have to compress these in so that it makes that room when you put your new pads on, or you'll never get it back over top of the rotor. It won't slide over. Now we can focus on putting our new pads in here. I'm kind of cleaning this up a little bit. Now make sure your new pads are going to line up with those grooves on the side and make sure they're the same size as the other ones. All right, you can kind of hold it up on top of the one that came off. All right, and yes, they look like the same pad, so we're okay there. And this little metal clip that I showed you earlier that I was talking about, it will come with new ones. All right, you can see that actually goes into that channel. So what you can continue to do now is just pull these other pads out. There we go. All right, and you can pull this off. These normally just pry off like that. All right, set it down there, and you can line the other one up to it, and that one will go in exactly the same way. You're just gonna push it into those grooves. But before we do that, I'm gonna get a wire brush, and I'm just gonna clean up all these surfaces right here. I'm gonna add a little bit of grease on this, just to prevent some squeaking when we put the brakes back together. And then we'll come back. All right, my new metal clips are in. I put a little bit of grease on there just to prevent any squeaking when the brakes go on. And I slid my pad in. And I wanted to show you, you see these metal tabs here? Well, they're actually pushing against the back of the pad. That's how you want to slide it in. And it's a little bit tricky lining it up this way. It feels like it's tight and it's not going to fit. You really got to play with it and get it lined up just right. You may have to push in on one side and push on this side, but they will go in. And just make sure you're not crushing these tabs in the back. These should be resting on the back like that. Okay? And then we'll go ahead and we'll do this side right here. We'll take our pad. And you may have to push down on a tab too to get it to slide in there a little bit. It's hard to see here. But sometimes they go right in, sometimes they don't. But they're not going to be a loose fit. They're going to be a little bit tight. There we go. All right, she's in. All right, we got both our pads resting in here. Now, when you go pick this up, be careful because these pads can fall out. So we're going to pick this back up, and we're going to put it back on our caliper. All right, so all I did was I slid it right down back into the caliper just like that. You may have to press on the brake pads a little bit for it to fit down in there, but it will drop back down in there. Now we need to raise our caliper and put it back over top of the rotor. Another way you can do it, rather than placing the cage down in here and lifting this whole thing up, you can actually place this whole assembly on your rotor first, and then go ahead and line your back bolt up just to hold it in place. Put your bottom bolt in, don't tighten them yet, and then you can lift your caliper up on top of this. All right, I got it slid up over there. You're going to have to probably hold one end with your knee and thread this top bolt in when you line it up, just so it holds everything in place. Now you can go ahead and start lining your other bolts back up, just by hand at first. Get them going in. All right, with all of your bolts in there hand tight, now you can go ahead and put your ratchet or your impact gun back on, and we can drive them in all the way. Everything's nice and tight. Now we can go up into the car. We can kind of start it up and just kind of pump the brake a couple of times just to get these pistons to compress and make sure we don't have any problems or any leaks. All right, well, that's it, guys. That's how you do the brakes on a 2011 Chevy Traverse. Hopefully the lighting was good enough for you guys to see. I feel like it was a little bit dark. But I'm also kind of pressed for time, so I wasn't really able to get into the angles. I just had this job today, and I figured I would do a shoot on it really fast. So I'm going to get on to the other side, but it's the same concept. Just follow the same thing. Don't forget, put your wheel back on. Make sure it's nice and tight. And of course, don't forget your master cylinder reservoir cap is still loose. Make sure you go under there and you tighten that back up after you're done doing the passenger side. Take it out for a test drive. Make sure it's working properly before you put it in the hands of somebody else and find out that you forgot to tighten something or whatever. So hopefully this tips helps, guys. Please give me a like, hit subscribe below, and leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.